conflicts. And I think we're going to start with Gaza. And I think, Uma, you wanted to ask a question first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Foreign Secretary. Last night we had really moving testimony from Reverend Jack Serra. He's from the Bethlehem Bible College, of the desperate plight of those in Gaza and the scenes of the flooding that we're seeing. And I hope that the UK will be looking at pushing on further humanitarian assistance. The question I wanted to ask is, in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of coverage of the death of Ahed Tariq El-Bayouk. She was shot playing near her family's tent in Gaza. The IDF say they are now reviewing this. It's got a lot of coverage, rightly, but this is just one case. Since the ceasefire, an average of 3 children a day have been killed. That's every day. That's over 140 Palestinian children. What's Britain doing to not only rebuild Gaza, but in the short term ensure that this ceasefire, it actually is a ceasefire, and that we aren't seeing children dying every day?
I think that you're right to raise this, and the ceasefire we know is incredibly fragile, but more significantly, hundreds of people have been killed or injured since the ceasefire came into force. And obviously that raises issues about making sure that there is effective monitoring of the ceasefire process, and also that we have proper progress around the process as well. The first phase of the ceasefire agreement was obviously around the return of the hostages. That has been hugely welcome. We know there's one remaining hostage, but it's been hugely welcome. The ceasefire itself, which is hugely fragile, and the increase in humanitarian aid, which has increased, but nowhere near where it needs to be. The Civil Military Coordinating Committee that's been set up is doing some form of monitoring what is happening, but I think it's not the full framework that we would want to see. And most immediately, you talked about the flooding. There is an urgent, desperate need for more aid to go into Gaza. We need all of the crossings opened, we need the restrictions lifted, and we have to get an additional surge of aid in. We've managed to get some additional tents in by working immensely hard to get over 2,000 tents in. That is really important. But the UN has said that they need more than 80,000 tents in order to be able to help people through the winter when there's been so much damage to buildings. So that's why it's one of the continual things we are pressing every single day, is to get additional humanitarian aid and support into Gaza. It's also why we're supporting the matched fund pound for pound deck appeal in the run up to Christmas as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask a question about the West Bank. So violence is decreasing in Gaza, but to have peace in Palestine, there needs to be peace across all of the areas. Violence and military operations have increased in the West Bank. Food prices have tripled, which is extremely destabilising. 1,000 Palestinians have been injured in settler attacks in the last year, compared to 500 the year before. What are you doing currently to condemn the creation of the new and the expansion of the existing settlements, to ban trade with settlements, and what are the practical barriers that you're coming across for the ban, and will you be carrying out further sanctions on violent settlers?
And also, I have to say, it was part of our report that we said that there should be a ban on settlement goods being imported into the UK, and the Foreign Office have not so far accepted that.
Yeah, what are those blockers that's stopping that?
Yeah. So just in terms of the settler violence, the increase in settler violence we've seen is extremely disturbing, and it continues alongside the expansion in settlements that we have also strongly condemned. We've been working internationally, not just directly, to increase pressure on that. So I put out a statement jointly with the French, German and Italian foreign ministers condemning both the scale of violence and the expansion of settlements just a couple of weeks ago, because we're so deeply concerned about the escalation of violence. And I think the number of settler violent attacks during the olive harvest in October alone, I think there were 250 recorded attacks. It's the highest it has ever been. And it is shocking and appalling in itself to have that level of settler violence, but it's also, I think, part of the broader issue about the future of Palestine. And that whilst everybody rightly is focusing on establishing the peace in Gaza, we can't lose sight of what is happening in the West Bank, and these need to be linked. It's why the establishment of the Palestinian Committee needs to also be linked into the Palestinian Authority, and we need to have that track to the two-state solution that we have obviously always championed and was part of our recognition of the state of Palestine, which is obviously the historic decision that we took and announced earlier in the autumn. So we are continuing to press those issues. And I think my hope would be that once the next phase around Gaza with the Board of Peace and the Palestinian Committee is established, that would also become an opportunity to link that more clearly with the issues around the West Bank and the reforms to the Palestinian Authority that we're also proposing. You also raised the issue, I think, around trade things. As you know, we have already said that the settlements do not benefit from the preferential trade tariffs and encourage the labelling of settlement goods. You're right that we haven't followed the approach that the Select Committee has taken, and that's not least the complexity of this, and we don't think that this is the right approach going forward. I would also say I think
it's not the right approach, or because it's too complex.
I think there's a combination of the two, but I recognise the point that the committee has made. So we have set out a whole series of things, and we've pulled back from, obviously you will know, the free trade agreement. I think what we want to see with all of this is to be part of now a positive process going forward. Now that we have the momentum around so many different countries alongside the UK joining in the recognition of the state of Palestine, we have a set of commitments not just around Gaza but also linking to the West Bank around in the discussions about the reforms and the peace process going forward. What's really important now is to bind everybody into a positive process going forward. This is deeply fragile, but we need that forward momentum, and we need to bring the West Bank into that forward process.
Thank you. I just want to expand on the settlement trade question. So as the Chair said, the committee did suggest a comprehensive ban on imports from illegal settlements. And I think the response from the department was that guidance equips individuals and businesses to make their own informed choices regarding such activities. What evidence do we have that the guidance is being followed?
So you're right that that's both the Department for Business and Trade and HMRC have recently updated their list of the non-eligible locations so that the goods in the specified locations then can't benefit from the preferential tariff treatment.